Good afternoon and welcome to WEFM's 3 p.m. news. I am your presenter, Rajiv Providence. First, on the local scene, Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves has postponed an official visit to Morocco this week as he confirmed that Deputy Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel is in Cuba for medical attention related to an issue with one of his legs that had him hospitalized in February. Prime Minister Gonzalez was scheduled to travel to London, then Morocco on Wednesday, adding that the issue with Daniel may be the result of a sciatic nerve problem. If he stands too much on his feet, it affects one of his legs. So he has gone for a second opinion or any possible treatment in Cuba. The doctors were doing quite good thing, Prime Minister Gonzalez said, adding that Minister Daniel is being accompanied by his son to Havana. The Prime Minister also indicated that he did not want to travel for a prolonged time, with two of his ministers not at work. Urban Development, Energy, Airports, Seaports, Grenadines Affairs, and Local Government Minister Julian Francis, who suffered a stroke last July, is yet to return to work. Approximately 50 teachers and 50 counselors have been trained in improving psychosocial support for students, teachers, and families of vulnerable populations affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and other hazards. The training ran from April 3rd to 4th and it was facilitated by Dr. Nicole Bird, a mental health specialist and executive director of Integrated Health Outreach Incorporated. The psychosocial support workshop is part of Component 5, which is support for learning continuity in vulnerable populations. It forms part of the social safety net for the COVID-19 response program, funded by Inter-American Development Bank, Caribbean Development Bank through the Ministry of Finance. The training was preceded by an official opening ceremony on April 3rd at the National Insurance Services NIS conference room, and heard remarks from project coordinator David Telesford, who outlined the components of the COVID-19 response program and highlighted various projects undertaken under each. Still on the local scene, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, has responded to concerns regarding the issue of severance for former employees of Liat 1974 Limited. This follows issues raised by the St. Vincent Liat Workers Union in a letter where it expressed dismay over the lack of concern, lack of compensation, or any official response to the collapse of the airline 3 years ago. Speaking over the weekend on WEFM's Issue at Hand program, the Prime Minister noted that since 2020 he has not been contacted by the union. Prime Minister Gonzalez recalled a letter being written to him in 2020 and calling the head of the union to explain that the government was unable to do anything until the administrator indicated in a definitive way the things which the Liat 1974 Limited can and cannot do, and authoritatively for the administrator to sign off on if Liat were not insolvent. What would be the workers' entitlement? The Prime Minister said he is awaiting a final position from the administrator in relation to all these matters. Prime Minister Gonsalves noted that he didn't say the government will give consideration to making whatever reasonable payment it may be able to make ex gratia. The Prime Minister said the commitment he gave still stands and he is prepared to meet with a delegation of the former Liat workers anytime after Easter. On to news in the region. Stories submitted by writers from Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Bahamas have been shortlisted for the 2023 Commonwealth Short Story Prize. The stories are The Ovilias at Benty Hill Dump by Alexia Tolas of the Bahamas, Where the Winds Blow by Cosmated Lindy of Guyana, Road Trip and Fall by Demore Lindo of Jamaica, Okwe by Kwame McPherson of Jamaica, and Thief from Thief by Deborah Matthews of Trinidad and Tobago. These stories are among 28 outstanding stories that have been shortlisted by an international judging panel for the world's most global literature prize. The writers come from 19 countries across the Commonwealth, and the shortlisted entries tackle subjects from illness, human trafficking, and decay to relationships and hope, as well as family secrets, bittersweet friendships, and making one's way in the world of work. They span genres from speculative and comic fiction to historical fiction and crime. The Commonwealth Short Story Prize is awarded annually for the best piece of unpublished short fiction from any of the Commonwealth's 56 member states. Two men were murdered in separate incidents in St. Kitts and Nevis. In the latest incident, a 30-year-old man was stabbed during an altercation with another man shortly before 2 p.m. on Tuesday. The victim, who police identified as Stapleton Village resident Shaquille Walters, was taken to the JNF hospital in a private vehicle, where he was pronounced dead. A suspect was arrested and is assisting police with their investigation. A few hours earlier, 18-year-old Zion Huggins was shot multiple times outside his home in Soho Village. Police in St. Kitts and Nevis reported Huggins was in his yard when he was approached by a group of men. As he attempted to run away, at least one of the men shot him. The district medical officer pronounced him dead at the scene. These incidents took St. Kitts and Nevis's murder toll for 2023 to 9. And finally, on the international scene, a Taliban order has barred Afghan women from working for the United Nations, the organization has said. The UN said the Taliban had informed them verbally, but there had not been any written communication of the move. The UN has told its Afghan staff, men and women, not to report to work for 48 hours until it has clarity on the matter in meetings with the Taliban. There has been an increasing clampdown on women's freedom since the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan in 2021. This is the latest in a disturbing trend undermining the ability of aid organizations to reach those most in need, a UN spokesman said, adding that it cannot operate and deliver life-saving assistance without female staff. The UN has called the Taliban order unacceptable and frankly inconceivable. This has been WEFM's 3 p.m. news. I have been your presenter, Rajiv Providence. Join us again at 5:30 for WEFM's evening news, and we thank you for listening.